from your local election headquarters. This is Politics Today with Jackie Kingston.
Amarillo businessman Alex Fairley takes his concerns about the city's issuance of tax revenue notes to the State House and Senate. Up next, excerpts from his testimony and lawmakers' response. And the Amarillo City Council approves recommendations to help improve infrastructure. We have those details just ahead. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. We start with an update on the Civic Center lawsuit as the litigation continues in Potter County surrounding the use of anticipation notes for the Amarillo Civic Center complex expansion and renovation project. Amarillo businessman Alex Fairley has taken his message to Austin, recently testifying in front of both the Texas House of Representatives Ways and Means Committee along with the Texas Senate Committee on Local Government. During the respective testimonies, Fairley laid out the case that his lawsuit brings forward to state lawmakers, none of whom represent Texas Panhandle residents, questioning whether the city of Amarillo followed the law when it issued $260 million in anticipation notes for the city's Civic Center complex project. It's an amount which officials claim is the largest set of anticipation notes in the state's history. Fairley said it ultimately comes down to accountability, asking the lawmakers whether entities have the right to tax citizens without telling people what's going on.
I feel good about it. We're going to fight this out in the first week in October in a district court in Amarillo. I think they made some overreaches. We think they made some technical mistakes. And we honestly think they were dishonest or misleading about some things that they did that day. So we'll see how that goes.
Fairley said regardless of whether he wins the lawsuit, he believes the city of Amarillo outlined an end-around roadmap for entities for an easier way to fund projects like the Civic Center complex project. State Senator Paul Bettencourt said a $260 million tax anticipation note is a, quote, blockbuster, saying that Fairley's claims against the city of Amarillo are preposterously bad public policy.
And look, as the author's intent of SB2, I believe this is imposing a tax, okay? Because I think that's why it's, I hope in this case your lawsuit is successful, because this is such an extraordinary, attempt to wire around SB2. And it's going to have real implications in the state, and not only to the citizens of Amarillo if this type of process can happen.
On the House side, while he said he was concerned with what Fairley told the committee, Representative Martinez Fisher stressed his need to hear from the Texas Attorney General's office, along with representatives from the city of Amarillo, who are both involved in the litigation.
So I share your concern to the extent that you have a, public finance section or whoever's involved from the AG side, and maybe I can request to the chair that maybe we do get that briefing. If the Attorney General is involved in your suit, we'd like to know what that level of engagement is. And at the same time, I mean, I'm a lawyer by trade, and I know that everything I say isn't true, and there's someone on the other side that says I'm wrong. I mean, I'd like to know what the city of Amarillo says. I mean, I think that's fair.
That's fair.
But I appreciate you coming here and telling us about it.
According to our previous reporting, a trial in anticipation notes-centered litigation continues to be scheduled for 9 a.m. October 4th in Potter County District Court. However, lawmakers at the end of the testimony in front of the Texas House of Representatives Ways and Means Committee said that the committee plans to take a look at the use of anticipation notes by entities regardless of the outcome of this lawsuit. Politics Today's David Gay reached out to the city of Amarillo regarding Fairley's recent testimony to see if the city plans to reach out to the committees and or state lawmakers to provide their own perspective on the ongoing litigation. The city's point of view on the use of notes as well. We asked if they plan to reach out for that. City of Amarillo officials responded by saying they have no comment on the pending litigation. You can catch all of our reporting up to this point on this issue and more on this story on myhighplains.com. In other City of Amarillo news this morning, the Amarillo City Council voted unanimously to adopt recommendations from the Partnership for Development Progress Strategic Plan Committee. The city says the plan will serve as a comprehensive roadmap for growth in Amarillo as they work to improve infrastructure. Politics Today's Kaylee Green has that story.
Assistant City Manager for the City of Amarillo, Floyd Hartman, told the council the PDP plan will be a guiding document for city staff and councils in the future.
That committee met multiple times over the last 8 months, researched the challenges related to development growth, the addition of lots for Amarillo, and those recommendations in their letter that are in the agenda was the culmination of their work.
The recommendations include necessary upgrades to infrastructure for drainage, streets, wastewater, water, and more. The council also approved another ordinance Tuesday, moving the PDP plan into Phase 2, awarding a contract to a consultant to help the city with a study to ultimately develop a street maintenance enterprise fund.
That will engage another committee. It will engage our public and identify what that might look like and bring that back to City Council for recommendations to move forward.
Hartman says the mayor and council will identify members to serve on that committee.
Then we'll study that issue related to how revenue is generated through a street assessment fee, and is that something Amarillo wants to look at or not?
He says the city's goal for the study is to have recommendations to the council after the first of the year.
One of the benefits of that specific track would be a dedicated fund to road repair, and where our citizens would know how roads are funded and repaired, and that would give us a more consistent road repair and maintenance program.
An important note here, Hartman clarified while these measures have been approved by the council, there was no action taken today that creates an enterprise fund for those streets, or Tuesday. Tuesday, the Amarillo City Council also approved a wind-down agreement with the operating company of the city's red light cameras. The wind-down agreement is the final step to end the red light program. The motion passed unanimously. The cameras have not been in use by the city since the end of August. Randall County Commissioners have approved a tax rate decrease for the coming year. This week, they approved more than 6% decrease in the tax rate. Despite the decrease, the county says it will create an almost 6% increase in tax revenue.
Correct. Randall County has been blessed with growth, and so that gives us an increase in property tax revenue. Also, the values on the property in itself have increased, as everyone has seen.
The Amarillo Public Health Department announcing this week they have received the latest COVID-19 booster shots, and they are ready to administer the vaccine to the public. Politics Today's Maya Clark has more.
We have received the new bivalent boosters, and so that's a great thing. We've received both our Moderna and Pfizer shipments, and this is a great new product. It has 2 strains of protection in it, so the original strain of protection, and then it also has the Omicron.
Receiving the COVID-19 vaccine doesn't guarantee that you won't get the virus, but it does help provide insurance and decrease the severity from the virus.
It doesn't say that you'll never get the virus or that you'll never be infected, but what you're purchasing is that insurance against severe illness, hospitalization, or death. And really that's kind of the insurance that we want. Every time we can slow transmission, every time that we prevent an infection, it gives the virus less of an opportunity to mutate to that next variant.
Amarillo Public Health wants to ensure they have enough vaccines to serve residents throughout Potter and Randall counties while maintaining a healthy balance and not having an excess in the amount of supplies.
We ordered 500 doses of each product, and then we have the ability to order more if we need it. We don't want to over order just because we certainly want to keep that balance, but we want to make sure that we have a good supply for patients who come in.
With local numbers still on the decline, Amarillo Public Health is hopeful that the vaccines will continue to support that trend and keep Potter and Randall counties in the green.
Every time we have a new, a vaccine and we see people being vaccinated, that certainly makes an impact in our numbers. So we certainly are hopeful that we'll continue to see our numbers go down.
Side effects of the booster vaccine have been mild, including injection site soreness, fever, and minimal COVID-19 symptoms. If you want to get the booster or your first doses, you can go to the Amarillo Public Health's walk-in clinic or make an appointment to go through the drive-thru as well. Multiple schools across the state had shooting threats this past week. Coming up, we'll take a look at the latest as those threats continue, lawmakers' response. I'm Jackie Kingston. You're watching Politics Today from your local election headquarters. School districts across Texas responded to threats this previous week. A Houston news station reporting a caller called 911 dispatchers with the claims of an active shooter and victims at multiple school districts. But a spokesperson with the FBI field office in Houston cannot confirm if those threats are all connected. Whether credible or not, the threats are still chilling for Texas families. Politics Today's Monica Madden spoke with some parents and heard what they have to say about those threats.
Confusion from students inside a Houston high school Tuesday.
Oh my God.
As concerned families waited outside, desperate to see if their kids were okay.
Just go over there. There's no use to being here.
I heard that there was been up to 3 active shooters, and I also heard that there were some kids hit.
It was a false alarm, to parent Anthony Messa's relief, but not to his surprise.
I think everybody's kind of numb to the situation. It's just happening every week, in one place or another.
Similar false alarms of an active shooter also shook a Waco high school Tuesday.
First thought was Uvalde, second thought was to get to the school.
The fears not isolated to those areas. We tracked at least 7 threats made to Texas schools this week. 3 of them were credible, and there could be more. Eanes ISD in Central Texas telling its families after a false alarm Tuesday that the district is aware of, quote, more than a dozen similar anonymous threats to schools throughout the state, none of which have been deemed credible. Credible or not, any mention of active shooter triggering students and parents like Brett Cross.
As soon as you hear, oh, this school is on lockdown, you're thinking, not another child.
He lost his son Uzziah in the May 24th Uvalde school shooting.
My son doesn't come home anymore.
His hope is that parents and schools stay vigilant, even if the threats turn out to be a hoax, as was the case with repeated lockdowns in Uvalde.
I do fear that these schools will become complacent because we became complacent.
The Texas Education Agency does keep track of how many threats, credible and not, are made to Texas school districts each year. The TEA sent us data showing in the last school year there were more than 67,000 threat reports made to all of the state's school districts, but the vast majority of those reports, about 69%, did not pose a real threat to those schools. Amarillo police still investigating after threats were made against some Amarillo schools this week. APD and Amarillo ISD say they were notified of those threats. They located the person believed to be responsible. Police say the suspect is not in custody but is secured and can't act on those threats.
We are continuing to communicate with the school district. We're communicating with other law enforcement agencies and continuing this investigation. Really at this point there's nothing more we can say on that incident.
The Clovis Municipal School District also investigating a threat to one of their schools last week. According to a post on their social media, the district offices say Yucca Middle School learned of a threat posted to social media after dismissal from school. Threat protocols were immediately initiated. Officials say police found no ongoing or credible threat. Some tense moments this week as the railroad workers' unions threatened to strike. Coming up, the latest on their agreement, what the economic impacts are if the agreement doesn't hold. Finding affordable housing is just getting worse in Texas, some calling it a crisis. Lawmakers are looking into ways to make things better. In a hearing on Tuesday, people from the housing industry told lawmakers Texas needs up to 200,000 more units than we have. Some blame outdated rules and restrictions on development limitations. A number of those who testified say lawmakers should find ways to make the process of building a home shorter.
I would definitely look at reforms that can help lower the cost of development overall. That would help my partners that do affordable housing, and it would help market rate as well. Just anything we could do to get hammer swinging and things built faster and cheaper.
The committee hopes to have concrete solutions heading into the next legislative session, which starts in January. Thursday, the Air Force Civil Engineer Center releasing another update about their ongoing efforts to address PFAS contamination at Cannon Air Force Base. The toxic forever chemicals are man-made. They're found in firefighting foam previously used at the base to put out aircraft fires. PFAS chemicals have been found in groundwater in and around the base, and now the Air Force is determining the best way to clean them up. That's an update to our ongoing I-Team investigation this morning. As they continue the remedial investigation, the AFCEC has already begun installing groundwater monitoring wells to determine the extent of PFAS chemicals in groundwater, including the aquifer. Christopher Gerke, the remedial project manager at Cannon, says a new pilot study will allow them to install a small-scale water treatment system. They say it could help protect drinking water and accelerate possible long-term actions.
It will help give us that information to eventually go into full scale to ensure that we block that off-base migration. And so they're stopping that flow of water. And now we're also going to look at the remedial investigation and how that determines how we clean up the off-base impact to the groundwater.
Gerke says it's important they collect all of the necessary data so they know the best way to go about their cleanup efforts near Cannon because they're spending taxpayer dollars. He says they're on schedule to start construction in December. The railroad unions and companies have reached a tentative deal to avoid a strike. The Biden administration announced the consensus early Thursday morning. In a statement, President Biden said the deal would guarantee better pay, improved working conditions, and peace of mind around health care costs. The details of the tentative agreement have not been released as of this recording. Beto O'Rourke is campaigning across Texas. Coming up, what Texans are saying about his run for governor. Welcome back. Early voting for the November election is quickly approaching, and all Texas eyes are on the race for governor. Politics Today's Monica Madden sat down with Democratic nominee Beto O'Rourke to talk about his uphill climb to the governor's mansion. Our team in Austin did also extend this same opportunity to Governor Greg Abbott, who so far has not accepted.
From Blue Austin,
we're going to win,
to the burbs. Democrat Beto O'Rourke says he's leaving no stone unturned in his bid for governor.
We cannot afford to write anybody off or take anyone for granted.
In Republican-leaning Caldwell County,
fire Abbott!
We find a yelling match between O'Rourke and Abbott supporters.
Oh, of course I respect the effort, yes. They believe what they believe, and I believe what I believe.
Hecklers greeted O'Rourke on several events during his Drive for Texas tour.
It's going to be a cold day in hell before he's ever a viable candidate in Texas.
And Beto has confronted them back.
It may be funny to you, but it's not funny to me. Okay?
But the Democratic hopeful is not deterred by critics. In fact, he's hoping to convert a few.
A woman's right, our very democracy, our kids' ability to survive the school year, all are under attack.
These loyal supporters are votes O'Rourke knows he has in the bag. Now, he's relying on them to mobilize untapped votes in every pocket of Texas.
He's tapping volunteers like Colby Wright.
Great if I could change someone's mind, but it's easier to influence a mind that hasn't made a decision yet.
Need all the help we can get.
And Alice Wilson.
State has been Republican for so long that people don't feel like their vote matters, but this year we know it does.
Analysts say O'Rourke will have a harder time with the conservative base, sure to turn out for incumbent Governor Greg Abbott.
This is O'Rourke's third campaign, so there's fewer independent voters to sway and almost no Republican voters to sway.
The very people who've been drawn out of our democracy will provide the margin of victory.
In Austin, Monica Madden, KAMR Local 4 News.
Another and important note on this race, we're going to be hearing from both Governor Abbott and O'Rourke during a debate airing only on this channel at the end of the month. It's happening here on KAMR Local 4 News, 7 o'clock Friday, September 30th. We want to hear from you ahead of that. Email your questions for the candidates to textgovdebate@nexstar.tv and make sure to tune in to the debate and our coverage afterward right here on KAMR Local 4 News. Democratic nominee for Texas Land Commissioner Jay Kleberg visited with voters in Amarillo on Thursday. Kleberg met with the community at the Golden Light Cantina to discuss his vision for Texas's General Land Office. It's part of his Texas Dance Hall tour. Kleberg is running against 3 other Democratic candidates for Texas Land Commissioner: Jenny Sue, Sandgrace Martinez, and Michael Lange. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick visiting the area as he campaigns for re-election. Patrick was at Hodgetown on Monday, part of his Texas bus tour. He's making campaign visits all across the state. So far, the incumbent lieutenant governor has visited more than 21 cities.
Rural Texas is well represented and listened to, and we want to help job creation, bring business to the Panhandle, and bring business to all of West Texas. And part of that is making sure no one comes after the oil and gas industry.
Patrick is facing Democrat Mike Collier in November. As we previously reported, State Senator Kel Seliger announced he'll be voting for Mike Collier this November. Election Day will be Tuesday, November the 8th. The last day to register to vote in the election is October 11th. Early voting will run October 24th through November the 4th. We'll wrap things up here on Politics Today right after this. That about does it for us this morning here on Politics Today. A reminder to get registered to vote if you have not already. The League of Women Voters has lots of information on their website. If you need to know where to start, how to do that, they have information for you, and they're a reliable, nonpartisan source to go to. Don't forget that you can follow along with us on social media. I'm on Facebook. You can find me there. You can find me on Twitter as well, Jackie Kingston plus the number 1, and follow along with us throughout the week on myhighplains.com. Don't forget about our debate happening September 30th. We are so excited. More details to come on that in the coming weeks. Have a great week. We'll see you soon.